Hello everyone, this is Farouk and you are at Revpanda Live. Today we are going to speak about a topic that most founders and C-levels, they have got love-hate relationship, and it's going to be about regulations and compliance. And I've got two experts here at the show today. So I'm joined by Mike de Graaff, co-founder and chief compliance officer at BetComply, and Steven Armstrong, founder and CEO at FRL Compliance Solutions. Gentlemen, first of all, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Let's start with your Barcelona experience. I know it's been like rainy days all the time. So
Yes.
how is the show going for you here at ICE?
ICE is my favorite show of the year. It's also my favorite week of the year, even though it's in January. It's a very great show. There's a lot of public. There's a lot of things going on. It's well organized. Yeah, love it.
Amazing.
Yeah, echo that. It's a very well organized event. And I just feel it's becoming more and more mature, if I'm honest. So echo what Mike says. It's probably the best event of the year, in my opinion. I get the most out of it. And yeah, it's good to see with so many people here.
Definitely. And you guys are also super busy, like back-to-back meetings and so on. That's great. So today I would like to change the format a little bit at this show. And I would like to have some kind of like a fireside chat. So I prepared some questions, and I also posted on social media before, and I've got some questions from the audience too.
Okay.
So you can step in anytime you want. So I will just start with you, Mike, if you don't mind. So we have seen the recent ABC investigation news.
Yeah.
It was all around, and it was about Anjouan licenses, and they were being called like fictitious, and it was even linked to, let's say, illegally targeting Australian players. And at the same time, we also see Curaçao licensing is in the middle of a kind of an identity crisis right now, with the CGA tightening the rules. So what would you recommend to operators if they are like sitting on the shaky Anjouan license right now? Is the party over for them, or do they need to evacuate immediately and look for another action?
No, evacuate immediately might be a bit too quick, but yeah, there are grounds for concern. Let's say the investigation, though it was quite in depth, it was lacking on some ends, but no one has ever stated that Anjouan is the most stable jurisdiction out there. It was a new jurisdiction. It still is. They had 1,300 licensees that they granted in a number in just like 2-3 years. So the demand is really high. So what in a demand where there's a market that's a high demand, high influx of applicants in a new territory, things happen. Now with offshore licensing, you can use the license in a very legitimate, nice, clean way, or you can target illegally Australian players and be part of an ABC investigation. Yes. But that's how you use the license. It's not what license you have.
Yeah, and that's that. I think when sort of them investigations come out, everyone has a panic around the license. I actually think the biggest risk with sort of that offshore world is actually isn't the regulator. It's your partners. It's your PSP. It's your banks. Are you doing the right things to ensure that license is sustainable for your business? And I think that's the key in a lot of this. So as Mike touched upon there, it's how you use the license, and you're prepared to use it rather than, doing stuff that will obviously bring on an investigation.
Yeah, Steven, before we jumped into the conversation, when we were sitting outside, I had a little chat with you, and you guys were telling me that you would like to actually set a licensing roadmap for the operators that you work with, rather than just going out there and try to sell a license. Because I know here on the expo hall, there are hundreds of companies offering licenses and ready to sell something right away. But instead, you'd like to go a bit more consultation direction, and you'd like to advise them the roadmap. Can you please explain more on the licensing roadmap that you have on mind?
Yeah, so it comes back to what consultancy is. Consultancy is not selling something. Consultancy is consulting the client. So as compliance consultants and compliance experts, we specialize in compliance, which is applicable in any jurisdiction. So instead of us being out here trying to sell license A or license B to someone, we actually talk to the client, find out what their plans are, what their budgets are, what they want to do, and then base our advice on that. And I think that is consultancy and not selling. So that's what we do. Licensing roadmaps include what is the budget, what is the plans, what do you want to do with it, by what time do you want to reach it, and then we figure out the licenses that they need, the structure that they need, the platform that they need, and then we roll that out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I like to sum it up in where when I talk to people, look, a license without readiness is just a piece of paper, and anyone can go and buy a piece of paper on the floor, but actually what they're going to do with it. And I think that's where we like to, as sort of consultants and as experts in our field, we like to sort of not go out there to sell someone a piece of paper. We're going out there to sell them a business and help them build their business, make it sustainable in line with what they need. And that could be that they maybe have, the idea of one license, and we actually sit down with them and they'll be better off based in a different license. It could be a whole different model. And that comes from road work, getting to know our clients. And that's a big difference from, walking around the floor and seeing a license for sale as such, that sort of probably, sometimes we get tarnished with the same brush sometimes, and we like to defend that. So certainly from my side, without that readiness, it's just a piece of paper.
So definitely you need to understand what operators they would like to do first, and then you take the action. And I love what you say about the consultation part of it, because when I first started my career, my mentor told me, don't use this always be closing approach. So start always be consulting, so that you can attract more clients and you can really guide them better. So that's great insights over there. And I would recommend all our viewers to get in touch with you and learn about the licensing roadmap that you have got. We are in the new year, and last year there were some highlights and we saw some headlines, and UK market shakeup was one of them.
Yeah.
And we also covered that story. We saw some layoffs, freezes, and obviously some fear in the market. And this year, do you think we are going to see a massive extension of the white label model? Or if we talk about these smaller operators, because they had to, lower the RTPs, right, to survive, how it's going to look like for them, how they will compete with those giants?
Well, there's a lot of things to unpack there. So first off, it is a very bad idea to increase the remote gaming duty to 40%.
Agreed.
And especially if the reason is that you want to generate more tax revenue, because you're not gonna. You're gonna generate less tax revenue. So let's start with that. In terms of the white label model, yeah, in the white label space, the margins are already slim, right? Because of the model, there's more parties involved. So if you increase the tax burden even more, I think, we're going to see a discontinuation of some of the white label providers. However, on the other side, we have also seen an actual increase in uptake in applications on our side, because there's other parties that smell opportunity in the market. So yes, you will see an exit of some parties, but there will be new market entries.
Yeah. I think there'll be a bit of consolidation as well. I think there'll have to be consolidation, because in order to survive, so as much as, and agree with Mike, it's not a good idea. And I think the reasoning behind it isn't thought out, and we will end up pushing players potentially to sort of the black market, because, they're going to, there's going to be more, I would say, opportunity for non-licensed operators to try their luck in a way into the UK market. But no, from a white labeling perspective, I mean, there'll be consolidation, and I think it will come back that the survivors will be the ones that have already made their business sustainable. And I think that's what you'll see, is you see the ones who have been over the last 5 years, who have become sustainable with their customer base, be it through, good, RG measures, good AML controls, also maybe diversing their business across their group to target new markets at the right time. You'll see them guys survive. It will take a hit, but you'll see them survive. And I think the rest, there'll be a bit of a survival mentality and potentially some consolidations.
I see. Steven, do you think this survival mentality will help with innovation as well? Because in this kind of crisis times, we see two things. Big guys buying out the smaller ones, or the market innovates.
So, yeah. So innovation comes from being enabled to innovate. And I think with an environment like the UK and then in the Netherlands as well, you're not being enabled to innovate. Yeah. You're being forced to survive and pay the bills. And you need to have breathing room in order to think about innovation.
Yeah, agree. I don't think if I'm honest, from a UK perspective, and I'm sure people have heard me before not be as kind to the Gambling Commission as some of the other regulators, but they're not open to innovation. They're not, and if I'm honest, they're not ready for innovation. They're quite stuck in their ways in terms of how they are as a regulator. They're not engaging with operators. And you can see, even when they do engage on something like the tax rise, they don't listen anyway. So they're not ready for it. So I don't think innovation will succeed in a market like the UK. I think what it will do is it will shift focus to be more innovative in other markets. And we'll see that drive in wider markets for people diversifying their model.
And maybe the operators will be leaving the market, as you were saying, that
Yes.
they will exit the business and they will go to the other markets where they can actually operate easier, better, and they can become innovative.
Yes, or just need to try another local market, because there's also some rumors out there that are saying, oh, UK licensees are going to give up their license, get an Anjouan license and go illegally into the UK. I don't see that happening. But they might see like, hey, my brand and my model might work in another local market where the tax burden is not as heavy. And so that kind of movement you will see. But yeah, innovate. So back to a little bit on the innovation side, the local market already has trouble competing with the offshore market in the product offering and what is out there, right? So if you push innovation offshore by increasing the tax, that product difference becomes even more. And if you want to have a local thriving market, your product needs to be able to compete with the illegal market. And that's not going to happen in this way.
Well, definitely. And following up my previous question, last year, everybody was talking about Brazil and also US market because of the sweepstakes and the prediction markets. But Ireland, quietly passed the Gambling Regulation Act, and we are seeing strict broadcast bans between 5:30 a.m. till 9 p.m. And I have the feeling that GRAI is actually really showing its teeth,
Yes.
over here. So I don't know if it is really widely captured in the industry. I didn't see this on the news and so on that much. Why is nobody talking about Ireland? Is it operators are seeing this this is business as usual, or are they really underestimating GRAI?
I would say they're, on one hand, indeed underestimating it. Now, the last months, there's been a lot of noise around Finland, around New Zealand, even Alberta, Canada now popping up. So, and then the whole prediction market buzz. So I think they got snowed under a bit in terms of the media coverage. But we are already preparing license applications for Ireland, because it is a good and healthy gambling market, and it is dual casino regime.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's quite a modern legislation. I think that, as Mike said, we're starting to see people starting to focus their attention after probably being a little bit distracted by some of the other stuff. But I think, with somewhere like Ireland, I think it's a serious regime rather than a loud regime, which I think is really important, because they want to seriously do it. They're talking to the right people in the industry. They're taking meetings. They're engaging. They spoke to operators. They spoke to people like myself and Mike, and actually that will drive a positive regime. So yeah, for me, I think we'll start seeing over the next sort of certainly 6 months that become a key player, and I think there'll be a lot more focus on it.
I see. I will definitely keep an eye on Ireland definitely this year for sure. Mike, you said Finland. We are seeing the end of an era over there. It's Veikkaus monopoly is finally over. They still keep it in the physical machines and so on, for the casinos. But I was wondering about your opinion. How do you think this is going to affect the market, especially for iGaming or online gaming industries?
Yeah, so Finland has been on top of mind of a lot of operators for the last, I think, 2-3 years. And it's been delayed a little bit in terms of when it's opening, but it's been on top of mind for everyone. Reason being is the gambling culture in Finland is big. There's the GGR and average player value is big. Now, what I think what will determine the success or failure of this model is whether they are going to allow affiliates or not, because it's still not fully decided, and there's still some political tension around it. But the affiliate model is crucial because affiliates will work. So they will either work in favor of your model or against your model. They will not stop working. So I think that is going to be crucial for a healthy market. But Finland is exciting. They follow the Scandinavian model. It's a very transparent regime. So I'm excited for it. We are preparing our clients for it. But for me, the success depends on the affiliate model for me.
Yeah, definitely. Is it going to be commercially viable? That's the key. And I think the affiliates are key to it, as Mike said. So I think a lot is leveraged on that because if, otherwise, if you've got the affiliate program working against it, then it's not going to succeed.
At the beginning, I started the session with the scary topic for many founders and C-levels. Like I said, compliance, could be really like a scary thing to touch for them. And what they do usually is like they just hire a team of 50 people.
Yeah.
And then they say, okay, I've got a peaceful mind. They handle everything. But recently we saw some big operators got fined. And I was just wondering your opinion, like, where do these blind spots come from the large organizations? Even they have like 50 people team, things are like overseen. So what would you advise to the founders and the C-levels in the large operators to handle the compliance issues on their end?
Yeah. So we service several tier one platforms and operators with large teams, and we do have the same conversation quite often, which is indeed, okay, you have a big team, but because you have a big team, it doesn't mean that things are covered. Actually, blind spots occur with big teams because person A thinks person B got it covered, or person A sends a document to person B and now it's sorted. Where if you have smaller teams, you have other issues like being overloaded and lack of oversight, but at least people are aware of what is being done. You have this like comfort level with big teams where you're assuming someone else took care of it, and then you find out they didn't.
Yeah, and I think it's about culture. I think with larger teams, sometimes that culture doesn't always filter through to the wider team. So whenever I'm working with companies, the starting point is always about what compliance culture do they have. Is that led from the top? Are they serious about it, or is it bad news is going to get punished? And I think it's getting better across the industry. But I certainly think that in some areas, it's not always leading the business, and I don't think compliance at all should lead the business. It should just be embedded. If you've got a good sustainable compliance function, then yes, there will always be something that compliance have to raise, but it's never going to be something so reactive that it's going to hurt the business. It should be proactive, should be in line, it should be expected from C-levels because they should be up with the trends, they should understand it. And I think that's a big shift certainly I've seen over the last few years, is that C-levels do have a lot more focus on this now. And that's brilliant because that then filters down. So, if they're holding all company calls, or they're doing, there's no longer, a tick box for compliance at the end of that call. There's compliance conversation throughout. And I think that's really, really important to help improve.
I see. And I think nobody wants to give the bad news at the end of the day. So
we've all given that in our time.
Yeah. But guys, it is something predictable, right? Because the regulatory entities, they are actually announcing it. They make these things available, right?
Yeah. That's the whole thing. At some point, you think like you should have known this, right? Or why are we still making the same mistakes? There's no clear-cut answer to it. What Steven touched on, I fully echo. It needs to come from top down. It needs to be embedded in the culture. Back when I was in compliance in 2017, 18, that type of era, it was really seen as a cost center, and then you had the big commercial teams, and then one compliance guy trying to keep everyone together. That balance is shifting a lot more. We do always say commercial and compliance have more in common than the first three letters, and that is true. Because to be commercially viable nowadays, you're gonna need to have a compliance culture. Otherwise, you're just destined for failure.
I love how you say it, like compliance culture. It needs to be adopted, throughout the companies. So definitely it is. Steven, one of the things that I noticed here at ICE when I was walking around the halls, the buzzword AI. But right now I would say that it is actually more in action. There's like fraud detection and other implementation of AI for the player experience. But now we are talking about compliance, and we just touch base on the large compliance teams. So do you think that AI will replace the compliance officer role soon? How do you look at that?
No, so look, I see, depending on how what your definition of AI is the key. I think there's a lot of different ways people describe AI, but for me, it will replace tasks, but it won't replace that human judgment. And I think as a compliance officer, that's always going to be needed. I think what it actually will do, it will be very helpful in a purely compliance world. It will actually highlight weak compliance, because it will enable you to create a better model to assure your business, rather than it being all about, can we cut a cost by making it a computer? When I was as an MLRO, we went down the route of the robotic route to minimize costs, but it was also to make it more accurate. If I've got a human going into a system and copying and pasting, then I might as well get a robotic element to do them tasks. But for me, it improves compliance because it will enable you to make more informed decision, because you can get data quicker, you can be more proactive. But also on the other side, it's very useful to show weaknesses potentially in a framework, rather than it being used to replace your compliance officer, who for me, their judgment is key in any business.
Got you. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the last sentence specifically, AI doesn't do judgments yet. It is mostly it's language models doing probability calculations, and it's not thinking per se. The compliance officer needs to think and make judgment calls. That part we are far away from being replaced. Yes, it will optimize productivity. It will highlight weak compliance for sure. What I want to highlight about AI, so last year it was indeed a lot more the buzzword, we're going to have it, and there was not much implementation. This year we are seeing a lot more implementation of AI. But what we are seeing in conversations is the lack of awareness of what is a high-risk AI and what is not, and what the implication of that is. So first off, is the AI sticker actually AI? That's one. And if it is AI, is it high-risk AI what you are deploying? Because if you're deploying high-risk AI in the European Union, there's a lot of work to be done. You cannot just have a few very savvy tech guys building the AI and then deploying it. The framework to comply with the EU AI Act is not simple.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gentlemen, before we wrap up the show, I would like to ask if you have one advice for iGaming operators this year from the compliance and regulations point of view, what would it be?
To call us, that would be the simple answer. Reason because I'm saying it a little bit as a joke, but Steven also knows this. The philosophy that we have for compliance experts is that the experts that are out there are able to deploy that knowledge in any market, any situation, any provider, and anything. If you're talking to a salesman, you're talking to a salesman. The founders, CEOs have big budgets, big plans. There's a lot of time and commitment involved. Find the right people for your team. If you don't have them internally, find the right expert that does it and that's not trying to sell you something that you don't need.
Yeah, echo all of that. But also, I'd say don't panic. That regulation is always changing, and sometimes that can lead to reactive panic. And again, to echo Mike, that's where we see ourselves as different in the industry. We won't. You call us in a panic, we're not just going to sell what you think you need. We're going to work with you. We will help you through that. But yeah, for me, there's so much change happening. Don't panic. Start thinking towards that sustainable model. And if you've got your compliance embedded, then, that life to sustainability is going to be nice and easy.
For those viewers who would like to get in touch with you, which channel would be the best? I know you're super active on LinkedIn, but Steven also, I would like to ask that.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's quite visible. I'm visible everywhere. Steven and I work out together on a number of projects, but you definitely reach out to Steven through his own channels as well.
Yeah, LinkedIn. But like I say, we partner up on some projects, so generally we'll share stuff. So yeah, either way, but generally LinkedIn is the key channel. Obviously, we're normally at all of the different events through the year as well. But yeah, LinkedIn or there's plenty of people that know us, so I'm trying to get a phone number as well if they ask nicely. So yeah, we're always around.
Definitely, gentlemen. Thank you so much for all the insights. We covered a lot today. Also, we had a little travel around the markets today, so that was really like fantastic conversation. And I think this will be kind of a staple for our audience. I'm expecting a lot of pause and replays for this episode.
Good.
So thank you for the insights and coming over. Even you have a very busy schedule at the show.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having me.
having us. Yeah. Cheers.
Everyone, thank you for watching, and I will see you all at the next Revpanda live session.